Hey Elevate students, what's going on today guys? Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day outside even though I haven't been outside either. Like I know most of you haven't. Totally taking a shot in the dark there. Hopefully you guys have. It looks beautiful outside, but I want to, first off, I want to emphasize an album here for this week. I'm gonna put it on the screen here. This is the newest album. Actually, I have two albums that I'm gonna put here. The first one is going to be Elevation Worship's new album, which is really good. And then also a new album from Indiana Bible College. Really great album. I was able to be there live whenever this album was recorded, and it is truly amazing. Every single year they're amazing. So you guys should go check out those two albums. Those are the spotlights for this week. Excuse me, but I wanted to also bring a word to you guys today, and the title of this devotion is going to be Never Put a Blank. And so that is going to be the title of this today. So let's dive right in. So I want to tell you guys just about a story, and it's from the book of Exodus is where we're starting at. And it's about the Israelites whenever they were wandering in the wilderness after they were delivered from Egypt by Moses. And in Exodus chapter 16, the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness. They were questioning why God had brought them to the wilderness to starve. And God then delivered them manna. But in verse 4, he says, "And the people will go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or not." So every day, so they were hungry, and every morning, so they had quail in the evening, but every morning manna would fall from heaven, and the Israelites would go out and they would collect it. But Moses told them, "Gather according to your eating." And so what did they do? They did just that. They went and they gathered correctly according to their eating, some of them more, some of them less, but it said that they did not lack. But what some of them did was that so Moses told them to not gather and to not keep it for the morning. And some of them, of course, did that. And what happened? It spoiled. So it spoiled. And Moses was angry at them because obviously God had told him, for them to not keep it till the morning. And they did that. But they actually could. There was one day, so they gathered 6 days out of the week. And on this sixth day, they would gather more for the next morning so that they didn't have to gather on the Sabbath. But again, what happened? Moses told them, there's not going to be any on the Sabbath. Some of them went out on the Sabbath trying to collect manna, and there was no manna. And so again, there's just all of these instances right here where the Israelites just constantly questioned God and questioned what he had given them, his promises, his blessings, and they still questioned and just didn't find these things adequate. And so there's another story here that I really like. It's always spoke to me. It's a really powerful, literally about like 2 chapters here where I was just like, man, God is just going like, man, they'd be pushing my patience, and they were pushing God's patience. So it was whenever the Israelites, again, still wandering in the wilderness. This is in the book of Numbers, chapter 13. And so the Israelites, they arrive at the land of Canaan. So this is the land that God had promised for them, and they had finally made it here. And so then God tells Moses, send 12 spies into the land of Canaan to scout it, just to see what it is. So they send 12 spies in, and they are gone 40 days. And 12 of them come back, and 10 of them came back with bad reports. So they all came into the congregation where they all were, where Moses and Aaron were, and 10 of them say, it is exactly as God told us. It's flowing with milk and honey. It's a very prosperous land. The fruits there, they bring fruits to show that they are very plentiful. But they said, but the people there, so they are mighty, and they are stronger than us, and we cannot conquer them. And the people, the Israelites are sitting there and they're like, well, God, again, why did you bring us here? Why are we here? They're like, you know what? Let's vote a captain. Let's get a new leader, and let's go back to Egypt and be into slavery, because we were better off as slaves than being here and getting all the way here, and we're going to get slain by these mighty people. And the two spies that had good reports, their names were Caleb and Joshua. And Caleb and Joshua said, if the Lord delight in us, he will bring us unto this land and give it to us. And that right there was just like, whenever I was reading that, I was just like, what, these people would rather go back and be slaves than to step into what God had promised them. And it's just kind of like tying into last week's devotion. The promises are not just for the Abrahams, but for the Sarahs. But at this instance, it's about accepting the promises that God has given to you. And so God came among them, and he was angry. He was like, time after time, I have shown you what miracle after miracle, what I can do, my power, and that I will deliver you time after time. And he was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to kill every single one of you. And Moses begged him. He was like, God, don't do this, because he was like, if you do this, then the Egyptians are going to hear, and they're going to then tell the people, these mighty people in Canaan, and then these people in Canaan are going to be like, oh, this God that promised to bring these people into, this was their promised land, he promised to bring them here, he ended up just killing them in the wilderness. And so God was like, okay. He goes, well, instead, no person from this generation, none of you will enter the promised land except for Joshua and Caleb. And so what he told them, what he told Moses was, you will wander. Even Moses and Aaron were not going to enter the promised land. And he said, you will wander in the wilderness for 40 years. They were going to wander until all of these people died. All of the people that were in the current tribes, that they would die, and the new generation would then be able to enter. And but it was really crazy, because even then after this, Moses told them, and they mourned, and some of them tried to repent. And they went up into the hill, into the mountain, and they tried to, oh God, we know that we've sinned, and now we will go and we will enter the land that you have promised us. And Moses told them, he's like, the Lord is not among you, because you have turned away from the Lord, and he will not be with you. And guess what? What did they do anyway? They went into the land, and they were killed. And so then they wandered in the wilderness for 40 more years before they were able to enter the land of Canaan, the promised land. And so what was, just kind of the point of this is that don't put a question mark where God has put a period. And there's just a lot of times where I heard this from our superintendent actually of the United Pentecostal Church International, and Brother Bernard, and he said this one time in one of his messages that really stuck out to me about just being in the will of God. He said sometimes we view the will of God as something overly mysterious. He said, and he was like, sorry if saying it like this, but we put it as overly spiritual, and something is so mysterious, whenever we should just be we should literally strive to walk in the will of God and be in the will of God every single day. And with this, we shouldn't question the things that God is leading us into and the things that God is doing. And in this youth group, we're in this right now, but we shouldn't question what God and where He is leading us right now. Together, we are still growing. We are still prospering. We are still doing this. And we could literally right now in this same pandemic, in this same time, be like questioning God, why is this happening? Let's just go back to, I would rather do this and rather do that. But we need to follow in where God is leading us right now, because God has placed a period. For Him, this is not a question mark. For Him, this is a period, and He is leading us into greater things. And so I just want to encourage you today to, in anything, don't put a question mark on your ministry, on your walk with God, on anything in your life right now, in anything that's going on, because God has already put a period. And so the 3 questions that I'm going to end today with and asking you is, number 1, Moses told the Israelites to gather according to their blank. And did they do that correctly? Number 2, what did the people want to do once the 12 spies came back? So once the 12 spies came back and the 10 of them had given the bad report, what did they want to do? And number 3, what did God almost do to the people if it wasn't for Moses? And I can just say, what was His explanation then to them? So I love you guys. This week there will not be a Chalked episode. I'm sorry, we took a week off, but we will be back next week, and then we have our Zoom call to Monday night, 5 p.m. But I love you guys, and we'll see you next week.